What's up, everyone? On this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we're talking about the great Florida band Underoath. I've said this a lot lately, but they are a hugely influential band for all of us. And out of all the music we've listened to Find the Great Line probably holds the crown for the most playtime overall. We have a general consensus that the four albums, from They're Only Chasing Safety to Disambiguation, are their four best albums, but we have some debate as to their early work, and then their last two albums, and I'm really curious at how you all feel about current Underoath music. But for now, let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast with me, Trevor, and you got all three of us again this week. So Kyle and Josh, and Josh was just about to tell us about his new wardrobe he bought.
Dude, I ordered this shirt like 2 months ago. They put them up for pre-order. Elijah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty
What's
sick.
the art on it?
It's their... I'm going to have the same problem. Masochist is the record that was super popular that you can't get on Spotify or Apple Music. So it's just like the album art from that.
Well, sick.
So I'm pumped.
It's awesome.
It was one of those pieces of merch I wish I would have bought 15 years ago and never did, but I also probably would have bought like a small, and it probably would have been painted on my body. So I'm really glad they reprinted them.
Right. Did you get anything else or just the shirt?
No, I had I don't know. I wanted to buy all this stuff, and I was like, all I really want is a shirt. I don't really care about anything else. They did vinyls, tapes, CDs, hats, hoodies, a couple other shirt designs. I like metal t-shirts, but I'm not way into super gory metal shirts either.
Right.
So I don't know, the one I'm wearing, that's probably as wild as I would ever get.
I gotcha.
So I'm super. I actually was looking for an old Elijah shirt. They made it in block varsity letters, and it said it said Sacramento hardcore on it.
That'd be so.
But Can't find it anywhere.
So are they touring? Are they gonna put something out? What's the deal with what they're doing? I think kept up.
They've been very adamant. We are not playing a show.
So it was
we're not playing
merch run, and
they just needed
a money grab.
They just needed a quick fix.
Well, it wasn't even them that they gave the okay to do it, but it was they're called Secret Swarm Records. They came in and were like, "Can we do this?" So they've done that with a few other bands that are hard to find, and so I think they kind of came in and what can we press and can we make it available? So
nice.
Their stuff goes online. I think the middle of next month. So I'm pumped for that. So I finally listen to that record.
That is interesting.
Never say never on playing shows, though.
Seriously, Misery Signals doing their last show.
How many times has Bane said that this is their last show?
Oh yeah, the Farewell Tour number 7.
Yeah.
Listen, man, everyone has to pay the bill somehow. So
I don't know. Tommy Green from Sleeping Giant just released a Sleeping Giant shirt.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. It's
actually way dope with the Sandlot. If you notice, the kid on the end is wearing a Sleeping Giant shirt.
Yep,
that's
pretty sick.
Yeah,
so it's a shirt within a shirt.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
They did hats.
Level merch.
They did hats too, I think.
Yeah, and just a crew neck. Yeah,
it's a hat with a picture of a guy wearing a Sleeping Giant hat.
Yeah. I think that was I think they printed those here in Salt Lake. I think at Ritual.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm seeing. It looks like all of it's for his. What does he do? Run against trafficking? Is that his organization?
Mm-hmm.
And so
I wouldn't say it's his organization, but he's part of it. A couple of years ago, he actually ran the entire state of Utah.
Yeah, I
That's
saw
cool.
that.
It's pretty wild.
Good for him.
No,
It's a good
it's really
cause.
cool. So, speaking of misery signals, they just got added, like we've been talking about, to Furnace Fest. It prompted me. I called Kyle. I got the okay from the wife, and we bought Furnace Fest tickets.
We're
So
going.
we're going to Birmingham, Alabama. So
We're gonna set up a booth. Just kidding. That'd be sick though.
Nice.
We're gonna play. Me and Trevor.
The old band.
Yeah, it's a German death reggae band. It's gonna be sick.
other than like the revolving drummer, like the two worst members of that band.
How much did the tickets end up running you?
Too much.
It was like $350 for a 3-day festival. So
Total?
Yeah.
Or like per
No,
ticket?
total.
no, per ticket.
Oh,
So
yeah.
$350 each.
$350. Yikes. That is a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's only that much because of the corrupt fee collectors.
Yeah. So how much was it without fees? Let's break that down.
$275.
Yo. That's robbery. It's almost $100.
I know.
Yeah.
But you got to think like $275 though for a 3-day festival with like just straight banger bands back to back. Like, and it's the last one they're ever doing. This might be the only festival I ever go to. So
Right.
that's how I justified it to my wife.
How wild is it to think though? Like, so okay, it was $275 and it was $350 after fees.
Yeah.
Fees, taxes, and then we paid like a $23 if we get sick or something happens, we can get our money back kind of thing. Yeah.
So really, okay, it's like $75 is going to go to fees, and then the rest of the money, once you divvy it down to every band there, every band's making less than $1 if the bands are getting paid
Off of me and Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
but the $75 fee just goes to the one place. It's
Yeah.
just wild. So off of 2 tickets, they made $150.
You know what? Like, I'm fine. I'm not going to do this that often, like Kyle just said, kind of thing. So if I go to one festival a year and that's what it is, great.
Have you guys ever been to a fest?
No.
Other than Warped Tour, no.
Very long days.
I was thinking about like driving out there. It's like a 9.5-hour drive. And I was like, I don't know that I'll be alive to drive home, So it's a good thing that I'm flying because then they can just wheelchair me on the plane.
When we did Rainfest, we drove to Seattle 14 hours, and then as soon as festival was done, drove 14 hours home.
That's brutal.
That's miserable. Yeah, that's crazy.
It was a very quiet drive home. Everyone was just asleep, including me driving.
Josh woke up and he was home.
They're fun. I will say, like, maybe this will be a little bit different. Like, cause with Warped Tour, you didn't know you knew the lineup, but you didn't know like who was playing until you got there, like when they were playing. But I think they plan these out a little bit better. How many days is it? 3 days?
Yeah,
3 days.
3
days. Have they announced any pre-shows or anything like that?
Not yet, but I don't get in until like 10:30 the Thursday before or whatever. And for a 3-day festival, I'm okay to miss a pre-show.
Yeah.
Unless it's some insane band, I'm okay to miss a pre-show.
Yeah. Sometimes the pre-shows are pretty fun just because you get to see, some crazy bands that would never play again, or only play like hometown stuff. But
yeah, but we're getting that for Furnace Fest.
Yeah. But I guess the only advice I could give is plan it wisely because they're long days.
It's gonna be tough. We went through last year's Furnace Fest with Chris, our buddy, because he went to it, and like there was some debate. It was like, who would you go see, kind of thing. And there was times where he was like, there was a band I wanted to see, but I had to go sit down for an hour.
Yeah.
So fully expecting that as well.
Then you run into bands where you're like, man, I really want to see that band, but they're also another band is playing where you're like, but that band is so fun. And are you like there to have fun, or are you there to like catch bucket list bands?
So we
I
had
don't know
that debate
I don't
a
know about
lot.
Trevor, but I'm going to this one for bucket list bands. Absolutely.
Right.
So
It will totally depend. I'm probably bucket list, but there are a few bands where it's like you might have to go see them kind of
yeah.
thing.
I do know that like if you think about all the bands Furnace Fest had and how many of them play in a day, they do a pretty good job though at not like overlapping too much with I don't know. I felt like last year talking with Chris, there wasn't a ton though that was like crazy overlap, you know?
Right.
None of like the bucket list overlapped, but there was a couple like bands who like I was like, oh, I'd want to go watch that band, but it was the same time that one of the older bands was playing kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, maybe it's a good thing it's in Alabama because I don't know. Maybe I'm biased here. I can't imagine Alabama's like this cool city you want to go see. It's just Alabama. But like in Philly, after being there for 2 days, it was like day 3, and I was like, I'm so hardcore out. I've had enough. So the festival started at like noon, and I didn't get there till like 6, 7 o'clock at night.
yeah,
So I was like, dude, I'm gonna go hang out. I'm gonna go check out Philly. I'm gonna go eat food. I'm gonna go explore a
Yeah.
little bit. I need like a break for sure.
that'd be pretty dope. Philly would be pretty fun to go and like just walk around and stuff. I don't know Birmingham. I'm assuming that there's probably not the sightseeing aspect, right? So, but who knows? Maybe
I bet they got.
Birmingham's the best town in the world.
I bet they got
We're
great
all moving
spicy
there.
food,
Probably.
So,
cheap
well,
living
yeah,
food.
that's true.
So I know Trevor, you were talking was it like a couple weeks ago, I feel like, or last week that we were talking about all these bands that had new releases. Did you keep a list of it all? Because I don't think we've talked since.
No, and I was actually just flipping through our text trying to find that list of
Yeah.
bands. So I'm going off memory here, but starting kind of newest. Did you guys listen to the new Knock Loose with Poppy?
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Really?
I like respect to them for not like getting super soft as they've gotten popular. Respect, right? I don't like it, but I'm glad that they're still heavy. So
I actually really like this one. I thought it was the best of the 3 that they've put out so far. And I thought Poppy killed it on her spot. So
I don't know who Poppy is.
I get very, I don't know. I like some like chick front bands, but like if it's just, I don't know, I just couldn't get into it. Was not for me.
yeah, I don't know. So Poppy, like, she's part of like the scene, but she does like pop music where she'll throw like some random breakdowns and a few things in there and stuff. She was really popular, what, 6, 7 years ago, somewhere in that time when she first came out. Since then, I hadn't really heard much from her, but she does a few features here and there. And like I said, I really liked her heavy scream alongside Brian's. So I thought it was great.
It reminds me. I feel like they're going towards like same deal that Code Orange did.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Just like heavy, but it's just more like, I don't know, like a heavier version of Slipknot is what it's turning into to me.
It's getting a little industrial. It's getting
industrial, a little slimy.
Yeah. New metal-ish.
Makes you feel icky.
Yeah.
You gotta take a shower after.
Yeah.
Did you guys listen to the Hope Conspiracy put out the rest of their new music?
I
The West
don't
is
think
Dead.
I've really ever listened to the Hope
I
Conspiracy.
don't think I have either.
Oh man, that last EP that they put out. Hold on, let me find this.
Yeah, who are these guys?
I don't know, but I started listening to them pretty heavily when they just dropped Confusion, Chaos, Misery back in 2023. They dropped that EP, and then The West is Dead. They just put this out, and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of cool. Did you check out the new Hot Water Music?
No.
no.
You guys are freaking lame. It's really good, by the way. So, you guys are stupid. the new Thursday song. We haven't talked about that.
Oh yeah, that's how far back this is. That song was great.
It's awesome.
I thought that song was incredible.
It was like I wasn't expecting the breakdown in it. Just the way they like built up to it and everything, I was not expecting that. And so for them to put that in there, it was like a really good throwback post-hardcore feel.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
The chorus was like perfect Thursday. It was so good.
Seosin has 22 new songs written.
Whoa.
With Cove, right?
Yes.
Amazing.
And you get your wish. They are in the process of re-recording, translating the name with Cove.
Heck yeah.
So they said that they didn't put out a release date, but they said a new record hopefully this year.
Amazing. They're playing Furnace Fest too, so hopefully it's in time for that.
Did you ever listen to his new project, Dead American?
Yeah, it was all right.
I actually thought he was almost like a better fit in that than Seosin.
I don't know, man. That self-titled is just, it's too good.
The self-titled to me was okay. I like translating the name. I like the stuff they did with Anthony way better.
I was translating the name for sure too.
Crazy. You guys are whack.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the new Ghost Inside?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's more mainstream, but I don't mind it. I still prefer the first two records.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they get to this point. Because
they talked about that they wanted to do something different. So, I mean, at least that was the goal.
Yeah.
To get to a different spot in their career. I don't know.
It's just so generic sounding. This type of metalcore is like today's version of butt rock. And I just am not here for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as butt rock as Parkway Drive.
It's true.
But
it's definitely not.
But I get what you mean. I could definitely see them playing this at like a WWF SmackDown intro, you know?
Yeah. Like this is the metalcore for people that don't really like metalcore, you know?
Yeah.
It's what you get on Liquid Metal, Sirius XM.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what it is.
So,
because like back in the day, people like you would tell people like, "Oh, I listen to heavy music," and they're like, "Oh, what? Like Disturbed?" And you'd be like, "Nah." But nowadays, you're like, "Oh, I listen to heavy music," and then they say crap like, "Oh, like the Ghost Inside." You're like, "No."
There's like two different versions of metal. There's the metal that you can hear on the radio because it can be played on the radio, and then there's the metal that would never be played on the radio ever in its existence because there's no way it would ever make it.
And I'm all for that stuff that's not making the radio.
So, okay, I found the list that we were talking about. So Belmont dropped their album. You have a chance to listen to that one?
I love Belmont, dude. And their new album's way good.
I liked it.
I have never heard Belmont.
Dude, it's like Newfound Glory and Linkin Park had a baby.
That's a terrible description.
No, dude, it's like really new metal pop punk. It's actually sick though. It works.
Which version of Linkin Park are we talking about?
Like I'm one step closer to the edge. That Linkin Park.
I
have that on vinyl.
That's incredible too.
That's sick.
Hybrid Theory.
That's sick. So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And then Greyhaven, they dropped new music. I know you listened to that one, Kyle. Did you listen to that one, Josh?
No, I really just.
What do you listen to?
Do you want me to pull it up?
Audiobooks.
Oh man, you're probably gonna get. No, here we go.
Not this podcast though.
Hold on, you're gonna listen to my list, and then we're gonna go back. All right. So I've got like Armor for Sleep, Set Your Goals, Thrice.
Nice.
Disciple, Ex-Disciple XAD,
nice.
Clifton. I was listening to Clifton the other day.
Wow.
Oh, heck yeah.
Hanging with Nature?
Yes.
Dude, that's so good.
All Shall Perish.
The first album?
Yes.
We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Static Dress, Parkway Drive,
Which Parkway?
Killing with a Smile, Dropkick Murphys,
Yeah.
Silver Steam When Broken Is Easily Fixed, Emery, and a crap ton of Underoath because there's like 8 albums, and the longest one is Cries of the Past with 5 songs.
It's so good though.
Yeah.
And then the one that I hadn't gotten to that you guys have talked about is I finally listened to the whole Boundaries album.
Nice.
Dude,
How do you like that?
I loved it. It was incredible. And where they have Matt Honeycutt from Kubla Khan on that song, that piece, it's just a straight Kubla Khan section breakdown that they put Matt Honeycutt on. And I was like, yeah, it was fun.
Dude, it's kind of funny because me and Josh talked about Boundaries, what was it, like a month ago? How we were kind of worried with that first song that they released. But a huge 180 from like my expectations of what the album was going to be.
Have you watched any live videos of them playing?
Yeah, they're insane.
They are so good live.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
And they're coming soon. It's probably a work day. You going?
If it's work day, I don't know. Probably not. Listen, man, I'm also doing a meet this weekend, so I don't even know if I'm going to be alive by Tuesday.
Dude, all the more reason. Go stand around.
I actually have three band. Well, I wouldn't call them bands. 3 groups I've listened to over the last week. One's called Never Easy. They're like that shoegaze type of music.
Nice.
Another group called Honey Revenge, which is where they have a the girl is the frontman or front woman, I guess you would call it.
Front person.
Wow. And then this other group called Senses. Senses like reminds me of like another version of Paramore, but like the Riot version.
It's cool.
So I thought.
Okay.
Wait, what are they called?
Senses.
Oh.
Senses.
Maybe I saw
FAIL.
one. Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple bands I feel like are coming out that kind of have this old school Paramore sound. It's cool.
I'm for it.
But yeah, me too. For sure. So
And then any new shows other than Misery Signals being added to Furnace Fest? I don't think I really. Oh, the Hawthorne Heights that got announced going everywhere.
yeah.
20 years of Tears.
20 Years of Tears. Yeah.
Well, I think the only bands that aren't on the Utah date, Stick to Your Guns is not on it.
Yeah.
And there's one more not on it. I can't remember. But I know like Seosin is, Amberlin is, and Hawthorne Heights.
Thursday.
Basically the only bands I really would not. I like Stick to Your Guns, but I would not care to see Stick to Your Guns on that lineup.
Like I'm not going to that to see Stick to Your Guns, right?
No, not at all. I'm going there because it's 20 years of tears, not 20 years of hate. You know?
I don't know. They could play that. What's the album that's like brown?
What?
Because it's like their bad album.
I had a joke about that, but I'm not gonna say it. True View. That song feels like you could cry, or that album. There's some stuff you can cry during. I guess.
Cry songs.
Yeah.
Are they going to do an unplugged set? Play This Is More. Rest assured, that with our hearts are pure. Oh, that'd be fun.
That'd be great.
It's at a different venue here, though. So my wife's dad does work for some security place, and sometimes they do events, and I think they are doing that event. So he said it's a pretty big venue, but I've never heard of it before. Have you?
What was it?
It's not like the Complex or the Depot or any of those places. It's almost like, you know, when Hawthorne Heights came last year, it was like some outdoor deal.
Oh, is that where they're doing the granary?
Yes, that's
the granary. Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's such a bad venue.
But out of all the bad venues, would you rather have it there or at USANA?
I'd have it there. I'd play it there over USANA.
Because that was my first day. I was like, please don't be at USANA, and it's not. So I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll consider it. But we're trying to get free tickets at said moment. So
Yeah. So it's like, have you seen that place? It's
I only saw videos of it when they came through last year.
they set it up pretty nice, but it's small. It doesn't have a big area. It's like the size of a parking lot, essentially. So not a ton of capacity there. And because of where it is, it's supposed to be a 10 o'clock curfew. So
So it's going to
I've
start at 10
heard,
a.m.
It's good though.
yeah, like it'll start early in the day.
So this show was set up for young parents. We're going to be done at 10.
I mean, let's be honest. Who's still listening to Hawthorne Heights? You know,
Me.
it's people our age. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
No, I'm not talking, dude.
I thought you were about to talk crap.
No, I think Hawthorne Heights' last two albums are some of their best albums. They're
Yeah.
way good. So
Well, they do a lot of cool stuff now with that era of music. You know, like you've seen. I mean, it sounded kind of dorky at first, but they look pretty cool. The Emo's Not Dead cruise or whatever.
That looks way fun.
You seen those?
I'm a little bit disappointed in the lineup for 2025 because us and our buddy Chris Friddle,
Mhm.
I've talked to him about potentially going. Kyle's a baby and says he gets motion sick. So,
yeah,
but
Um,
this 2025 lineup's not great. 2024 was awesome.
Well, think how cool that is. So our era of music can sell out a cruise.
A cruise ship,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they said it sells out in the pre-sales. Like it's gone.
it does. Yeah,
I mean, look at When We Were Young, right?
Yep.
That fest sold out in like
It
nanoseconds.
still does.
You know?
You know, like
Yeah,
and even when they kept adding days, it still sold out.
yeah.
So,
It's wild.
dude, that's cool.
Emo kids, come on.
20 years.
Aren't they supposed to like be in basements and stuff, crying? Like, why are they buying tickets to these concerts? You know,
They had to get married. They had to come out of the basement. There's an old band. You might remember these guys. Remember a band called Parallax?
no.
They're from like Utah County. They resemble, I think, like Poison the Well pretty well. But they're playing I think a reunion show. I think it was on May 25th. So their vocalist died, I think, in the mid 2000s. I'm pretty sure. So I don't know who's doing the vocals, but I know they're doing a reunion show.
Nice.
There's Madball on May 4th. Is it May 4th or May 5th?
24th.
May 24th?
Yeah, it's the end of the month. Got tickets for that.
And then you were saying Jesus Peace and Sing a Sugabog.
Yep, that's next Tuesday, which by the time this comes out, it'll probably be like 3 weeks ago.
Time travel.
And then I think as far as shows go, at least up here, that's all I know of.
Yeah. You know, the one that's coming up that I'm really tempted to go to is Knock Loose is coming with Speed.
Oh, really?
That's coming up here in just a couple weeks.
Dude, maybe we'll get a coupon to Reebok or something.
I actually really thought about going to see Say Anything on their Is a Real Boy tour in June.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
It's a band I haven't listened to in a long time.
Is that coming through here?
Yeah. It's in June, I think. It's cool. Like on this whole 20-year thing, there's so many bands that are like, it's crazy to think this is 20 years ago. Because these are like a lot of like big bands, you know, that I'm sure you guys too, like just influenced like what I listen to now or coming back and playing this album front to back. So what have we seen so far? We saw Newfound Glories.
Saw Newfound Glories, Sticks and Stones.
And they're coming back to do Catalyst this year. We saw Thrice, Artists in the Ambulance.
Yep.
Like I said, Say Anything's doing theirs. Then you have the 20 Years of Tears.
20 Years of Tears.
Underoath is
did
doing
theirs for all the time.
They're only
Underoath
just announced.
Yeah, they just announced theirs.
Yep.
Did you do Thursday? Was Thursday a 20 year, or
Yep,
was that just a tour?
Yeah, no, it was War all the time.
War all the time.
Was
20
War
years.
all the time. I'm probably in 3 weeks going to catch She Is Legend. I Am Hollywood.
Yeah,
That's 20 years.
Just wild. Because you're probably gonna like remember and see a lot of people that you're like, I have not seen you in 20 years. I probably could have gone another 20 years.
Probably, right?
Actually, that's almost kind of what holds me back from going to these 20 years. Is like,
just don't talk to people.
I get pumped, but then I'm like, who did I hang out with in this time?
Us.
And like, well, okay, but you live far away, and you didn't come to War all the time with me. You bailed.
I was out of town, bro.
Cruise, War all the time. Anyway.
Homie, come on, man. You talk so much crap on going to England and all sorts of stuff, and you won't even go to a show on a weekday. You have no ground to stand on.
Yeah, I do. It's a work night. Look, I burned up all my kitty lives when I was 30. I don't have many left.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, anyway, it like holds me back sometimes. Sometimes I think about some of the people I did hang out with at that time. And I see them at that show, and I'm like, I'm going to go sit in the back. Put my hood on, hope no one recognizes me.
Just go pants them or something.
That's one problem with, tatting yourself up and making yourself recognizable. I make eye contact with all those people. We know each other, but we just turn and walk away because it's like, I don't really remember your name. So
actually, I feel like tattooing myself has kind of gone in the benefit because I don't look like I did, 20 years ago. And so they kind of do this like halfway like, no, that can't be him.
I don't know, man. It still look exactly the same.
I don't think it's the tattoos. It's the no long hair and the shirt that actually covers your neck.
That's not a V-neck down your belly button?
Yeah.
With one of those beanies from Urban Outfitter that like looks like a Santa hat or whatever that comes like all the way back. You know what I'm talking about? The like super elongated beanies.
I'm pretty sure we all had one at one point.
No, I tried stealing it from you and you got mad at me.
What?
I took yours and then you kept getting mad at me because I'd keep wearing it and you'd be like, dude, that's mine, give it back.
They were expensive beanies. They're like $20.
So you didn't pay for it.
Oh, I definitely did at Urban. They were hard to steal from.
Man, we should probably talk about this band.
Should we?
Probably. We're at 32 minutes.
I mean,
I know.
To be completely honest, though, like, there's really only 4 albums to talk about.
Yeah, Cries of the Past.
Okay, first of all, no.
Well,
maybe Disembog.
We'll jump in here then, and for anyone who hasn't caught on yet, we're talking Underoath today, and I mean, we really don't need to do an introduction for Underoath, right? Everyone who's part of the scene knows who Underoath is. We just got done talking. Now they're doing a 20-year of They're Only Chasing Safety, which was, at least for me, a very groundbreaking album. Like, it was a huge introduction into what this scene was. I remember going to Target and buying this album, and I bought 2 albums at the same time. And I don't remember what the other one was, but this one had the album art where I could actually have it out and be looking at it, and my mom wasn't going to freak out. The other one was hidden away in the Target bag that I had, kind of thing.
You had it out because you were like weirdly attracted to the lady with the oxygen mask?
No, I was just like looking at it and reading because my mom was like, "Oh, what'd you buy?" Right? And I was like, "Oh, I just bought this CD." And then I remember sitting, she had to run into a store. I sat in the car, I put it in, and I was taken back. Because at this time, I'm listening to a lot of Taking Back Sunday. I'm listening to a lot of like Census Fail, just softer stuff. Weezer was a big thing in my rotation at this time. I put this album in and was just like blown away at what it was. So go for it.
The 20-year announcement for this album made me feel old. This is the first one of those that has actually made me feel old. Because like all the other ones, like War all the time, like I know that I was still a kid when that came out, right? And I don't think I really like got into war all the time until I was a little older. But when they announced 20 years they're only chasing safety, I was like, I'm old. Like
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
old now, you know?
Yeah. It was definitely a weird feeling. But started in 1997, Ocala, Florida. The original vocalist was Dallas Taylor of Maylene and Sons of Disaster. And I think that for the most part, the lineup has been pretty consistent. They recruited Spencer Chamberlain right before putting out their Only Chasing Safety. And I never really knew why they made the change, but I was listening to an interview today with Spencer, and he said that the band had asked Dallas to leave.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Well, it sounded like that he like left on his own terms, but the band had asked him to leave over like controversial stuff. But then he just kind of made the decision to just leave. So that's
Got it.
really about all that I know.
See, so like the only thing that is a little bit weird to me is even when he went to Maylene, he was very, very Christian. He was unashamed, what's the word?
Unapologetic.
Unapologetic Christian, right? And I know Underoath continued on as a Christian band, but I wonder how much was Dallas basically starting the band and be like, this is what we're doing, this is who we're going to be, kind of thing, and them just continuing on in that path even after they left. And there's so many articles, interviews, things about that Spencer and Aaron and the guys in Underoath have come out and said, there were years where we shouldn't have been considered a Christian band. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And so I'm curious at how much how many problems he was causing in the band that kind of led to that, and for this to all happen. Yeah,
I think there's a huge difference between being in a Christian band and being in a band full of Christians. And I think
yeah, we
that's
talked about that.
like I mean, in later on in Under Oath, why from what I've read, why they dropped the Christian name is a lot of stuff came from Spencer. Like people held him to this like standard he could never meet, and like he's been pretty open about like his drug addiction and things like that. And then like someone would find out about his drug addiction and be like, well, you're not Christian and blah blah blah, and it just which that's not how that works. Everyone has their own demons they
Right.
fight, whether it's a drug or something else. But
Sure.
I think that when they banded back together, that was one of the things they did. We're not doing this for a name, because I feel like that's kind of what they started to do. It was like you said, like they were a Christian band. There were many years where they shouldn't have been.
Yeah, but see, I don't know if they were doing themselves any favors because, like, do you remember the DVD that came out? Was it with They're Only Chasing Safety, right? Or is it when they released Define the Great Line that came out that DVD?
There's two. There is one with They're Only Chasing Safety, and there is one of Define the Great Line.
I guess I can't remember which one it is, but like you can see Tim, the guitarist, like arguing with like people about religion, and they used to like get in a circle on stage and pray.
That was a
Before,
big
and so
thing for a lot of bands.
yeah, but it's like I don't know. Like I appreciated the music, and like their like first two well, what I consider their first two albums of They're Only Chasing Safety and Define the Great Line are like genre defining. I don't know that we've talked about a band that maybe has been as influential as these guys have, not only in the like scene, but actually like musically. But looking back on a lot of that stuff, it's like it kind of felt wrong, right? And you get where they're coming from now, where they're so like anti that stuff and like openly against it and pushing the issue. But it's like y'all didn't do yourselves any favors but then again, they're kids, right? Like I don't know. This is kind of it's a good like peek behind the curtain really about how like screwed up these industries are, because there's record labels that literally wouldn't sign people if they didn't like openly confess that they were Christians. And it's like, that's jacked up too, you know? And yeah, I listen to like a lot of those bands, but you know, like that sucks.
So they start the band in '97. They're still in high school. When they
Yeah.
when they sign on to a label in Florida, which later gets, I think it's Florida, which later gets bought out by Tooth and Nail, and then they actually signed to Solid State Records, which is the subsidized version of Tooth and Nail. And like, so to be on Solid State Records or Tooth and Nail, one of the requirements is you have to be a Christian band or represent yourself as a Christian band. So from a business standpoint, if you look at a roster and that's one of the requirements, are you just going to say you're a Christian band and put it in your label just so you can be on this roster with all these other bands that potentially be put on the like a Solid State core? You probably would. So at that point,
which sucks though, right?
Start straying away like the whole reason of the label.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, it's kind of unfair to do that because, like you said, I mean, then you pigeonhole these guys to be that, and then eventually they get to a point where they're super resentful, and this is what it ends up like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
And to be fair to these guys, in that interview with Spencer that I was listening to, he said, listen, I'm not anti-religion. He's like, I get painted as anti-religion because of like the experience that I had and how vocal I am in talking about my experience. But believe whatever you want. I could care less. Like, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm here to share my experience and the way that it impacted me. But I'm not here to bash, to criticize anyone's faith, anyone's religion, because it can do a lot of good for a lot of people. For me, it did a lot of bad. And so, you know, it's an interesting dynamic in that aspect where when I say like they were a heavily Christian band, right? Acts of Depression, A Love So Pure, it's just like a prayer to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very, very, very Christian, right?
But see, I like my question though is like, what's the difference then between a band like this and a band like Sleeping Giant? I mean, Sleeping Giant's literally the same.
I mean, but like, what's your argument? There's not
just
a
like how does like Sleeping Giant not fall into the same crap that these guys have? You know,
I think that just comes down to members. That comes down to their personal beliefs and the different things that they went through. The fact that Spencer was going through, you know, drug and substance problems and things like that led to.
I would think that Underoath and Death Star are more comparable than Sleeping Giant, because Sleeping Giant was the product from Death Star, right? There's like three members that came from Death Star that started Sleeping Giant.
Yeah.
And even when they were trying to get them to tour the Scream the Prayer tour, because they were like, we're not touring for money, we don't do any of that. We only want to play if it's for like praising and stuff like that. So like the later records of Sleeping Giant, they stopped doing US tours and stuff like that because we like, want to play shows. Like we want to go like help. And so if you look at a lot of their later shows, they went and played in like third world countries and stuff and just like helped around the community. That's like what they wanted to do. I think that's a huge difference between them and Underoath, in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, maybe this is hypercritical of them, and obviously from an outsider's view looking in, but it's like you kind of see the difference with some of these bands that like walk the walk of what they believe, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's part of also probably when they started, because one of the big things about this is think about how young they were. And then be labeled as that starting at 16, 17 years old and blowing up the way that they did. And then to have that Christianity stamp, you know, plastered onto them, they kind of had to. They were in the spotlight. They were in the limelight. They were on the record label, like Josh said. It was one of those things where they were kind of forced into continuing down that pathway, it felt like.
Right.
So, you know, the fact that they were able to, it's weird, right? Because they did somewhat ostracize a small portion of their fan base. But, I mean, like, we don't care, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter to us. Whether they had stopped claiming Christianity and before they're only chasing safety or not, we were listening to everything.
Right.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't have mattered to us.
Well, and I just want to make it very clear too that the reason why I don't like their later albums is not because of that. It's because the music genuinely is not good. I don't care about the rest of it. I'm just gonna make that very clear. Okay.
I will say when you were talking about the lineup, so the two original guitarists, not Corey, the other one that Dallas started the band with, what was his name? Do you remember?
I don't.
Because Corey was the
I
second one.
Right. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember his name. I should have
So,
it, but
so I read the first guitarist actually left the band before he even recorded anything on Active Depression or Cries of the Past. And then Corey was the one who later died in 2021.
right.
And so then they added, what's his name? Chris what's his last
Dudley.
name? Dudley. They added him in Cries of the Past. Or not Cries
Right.
of the Past, or Active Depression was 2000. He joined the band in 2000, and then they added the bass player. So by 2000, the lineup is pretty much the same, except when they switch out Spencer Chamberlain or switch out Dallas for Spencer Chamberlain in 2003.
Right. No, they
Yeah.
solidified pretty early on what their lineup was and who they were, kind of thing, which lent itself well. The funny thing about Spencer joining is he said when they approached him, so Chris is the one who recruited him into Underoath,
Mm-hmm.
and he was in a band with his older brother, and they brought to him the demos, and he said, honestly, the demos sucked. He's like, I had no interest in joining Underoath. And then they came to him and they said, okay, you're not joining. Play these 2 shows with us, though, because we already have them booked. We'd like to at least get these shows done. And they had tried, I guess, one guy after Dallas for like a small tour that they were doing, and it just didn't work out. So he agreed. And he said when we got to the practice space and started like jamming, he's like, immediately we were writing new music.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it clicked. It was like, okay, I don't necessarily like what you're doing right now, but I can see how this could be good. So he hopped on board. And his older brother was the one who actually said, I'm moving back to wherever their hometown was. Go play with those guys. So
Yeah, I think Spencer used to be roommates with Chris at one point. And so they had like kind of a long-standing friendship. And then did you ever listen to Spencer Chamberlain's band he was fronting at the time?
the
Did you
first
listen to them?
one,
Yeah.
what was it?
I'd have to look up the name again. I remember I looked him up a while ago, and it's okay. I mean, I'm glad he made the change in Underoath. It's definitely a better fit. But yeah, I think the guy they had fill in before, it was either a guy from Atreyu or they were on tour with Atreyu. But
Oh,
they said,
interesting.
but yeah, they just said it was just basically because Dallas, I think, had left and they already had a tour booked, and so they had somebody come in and finish out what they had.
Yep.
But it's been so long since I've seen They're Only Chasing Safety DVD. But they either recorded that album in 2 weeks or they wrote it in 2 weeks. I can't remember which one it is. I tried to look it up and I can't find anything.
Probably recorded because they had some of these songs pretty much demoed out. Like we were talking about when we were talking about the mailing one, they basically had what was the song?
Reinventing Your Exit?
Yeah, as a different song name
Yeah, with Dallas.
with Dallas. So a lot of the stuff, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the stuff was already done, and then they just reworked it once Spencer joined the band, kind
Mhm.
of thing. So it was probably a 2 week recording process.
So it's probably good to note. So like you have the 2 first albums that Kyle's going to discredit, right?
Yeah, I
This
don't
is
like
what I
it.
would almost call the first stage of Underoath, right? Active Depression and Cries of the Past. It's a completely.
You wouldn't throw the changing of times in that?
I think it's half and half. It's like
Yeah.
projecting like what They're Only Chasing Safety is going to be, but they're still trailing off of what they were. It's almost like a good crossover record to go to They're Only Chasing Safety, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. What do you think about these albums? Kyle, you don't have to talk.
Oh man, so when I got into Underoath, the first album I listened to was "They're Only Chasing Safety." It was a burnt album or a burnt CD I got in junior high. I think in like 8th grade, maybe. And the record was phenomenal. And I didn't get to listen to these records until like later on when they were more like available online. Because at that point, you couldn't find them anywhere. It was like, you got to listen to them. So it was like searching them on YouTube. And I remember I got them downloaded onto my iPod, and like it was very different for me. I was probably where Kyle's at, where I was just like, this is not them. This is like another band with the same name. Like, how dare they, But now I listen to it, and because I like that kind of music now, and I think it's really good for what it is. But like you say, like 5 songs, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not a record I can listen to all the time, but is it? I think the song's called "Your Love So Pure." Is that what it's called?
That's on.
That one's on Active Depression.
Active Depression.
So,
dude, that song rips.
Yeah,
so good.
Cries of the Past is not good. I'm just gonna be honest. It's not good.
Because why?
It should never take 42 minutes to listen to 5 songs.
I will agree with that, but
it just sounds like Metallica. It's like,
go ahead.
I just don't like it.
I love off that record, "Giving Up Hurts the Most." That song rips. So good. Just all of it.
I'm way more into this kind of music today than I was back when, like you said, They're Only Chasing Safety came out. And so listening through these albums again, I had a ton of fun with them. I thought they were fun. They were good. I mean, you got to put it into 99 and 2001 perspectives when they actually recorded these.
Yeah, when you start thinking like this is what they demoed out when they were still in high school.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Still don't like it.
Am I bumping it every time I get in the car? No. But for the sake of listening to everything for the podcast, I thought this was way better than the new stuff.
I will say that Active Depression is a lot better than Cries of the Past.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Although, what the heck is at the beginning of Heart of Stone, where he's like,
That's the early 2000s gimmicky stuff that happened. But no, I really like them. I had a lot of fun listening to them. I thought that they were good. Like I said, it's good for putting into perspective of what it is, but obviously the middle stuff is their best work for sure.
So what did you guys think then of Changing of Times? Because this is an interesting album, because I feel like my brother and that generation, like this is Underoath to them. Like They're Only Chasing Safety was cool. I don't think my brother ever really even got into Define the Great Line, which is blasphemy. But to him, Underoath is the Changing of Times.
This album, I feel like, resembles pretty close to like bands like Poison the Well. It's like closer to that genre, so I could definitely see that. I remember hearing "The Sun Still Sleeps." Is that what it's called?
When the Sun Sleeps.
When the Sun Sleeps. They played it live, and I was like, "What album is that off of?" And the Changing of Times was another record you just couldn't really find. It's weird. Like as soon as they released "They're Only Chasing Safety," it was like the first 3 records just disappeared. They never played anything. It was just gone. Like the era was just gone.
Yeah.
It was super weird.
I think they only ever played When the Sun Sleeps.
Right. But that's when I started going down the rabbit hole of like, oh. And I remember like watching the music video, and I'm like, this doesn't sound anything like Spencer. And that's when I kind of started, I'm like, it's a different vocalist. That isn't him, and it's just super weird.
I mean, here's what's interesting too is like, I know this doesn't really mean much, but like number of plays on Spotify, like When the Sun Sleep has almost 7 million plays.
Yeah.
The next closest on that album is 1.2 million. Like that's still a ton, but like 5 million plays different. Like I think that says enough too about this album that like.
Well, to further that point, you move over to They're Only Chasing Safety. and A Boy Brushed Red Living in Black and White is 70 million.
Yeah.
It's 10 times the amount.
But I'm just saying that like true Underoath fans are gonna they're gonna listen to this album, but like again, like the point we were making, the only song people care about from this album is When the Sun Sleeps, you know, because it's like everything else just kind of got erased when the next album came out, which I get because it's way freaking better.
I think what was cool about even the intro of that, you kind of got to hear what Chris could actually do with like the piano and the ambient noises. That was like the introduction of this is what we could do, you know?
Yeah.
Because dude, that I don't know, that intro is sick. You have the guitar and you just have the piano going in the back.
It is cool. Yeah. The keyboard in the beginning with the weird sounds is
like
it's
alien
really
noises.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really unique. And that's I obviously like that's what I feel like missed with those other albums is that other albums just sounded like noise. This sounded like more unique musical stuff for them. So
yeah, and see, I text you guys and I was like, out of those three, this is like the worst one out of the first three for me.
Really?
Yeah, it really is. But it's just because those other two are so different. And this one was so close to They're Only Chasing Safety. Like you said, it's that bridge album. I'm just like, I'm not listening to this. I'm just going to go listen to They're Only Chasing Safety.
But see, like their first two albums, there's bands that did that sound better. And I'm going to go listen to those bands if I'm going to listen to that kind of music.
I don't disagree with you on that. Yeah. I agree with you on that. But for the sake of listening to Underoath, if I'm doing what we did, listening to the whole discography and just ranking those first two albums being different, actually I enjoyed more than Changing of Times.
I understand that.
So then they hit it off with They're Only Chasing Safety, and this thing was just insane. Like, I don't quite understand why this album blew up the way that it did, but I mean, it caught all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. From Aaron's vocals to Spencer's vocals. The one thing that listening to Spencer now versus this one, he was trying to be Dallas, or at least kind of bridging that gap between what he could do to what Dallas was doing on Changing of Times. That is literally my only criticism, because I feel like that if they were to record this with how they did the Find the Great Lines vocals, it could have been a little bit heavier.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like his vocals were exactly what they needed for this album because musically it's very different than the later stuff too.
It's true.
So I don't know that like his heavier vocals would have actually fit the music to this album. I think it was like just thinking of the intro to Young and Inspiring where he comes in like kind of yelling and then goes into that kind of higher scream.
Mm-hmm.
Like sure that's reminiscent of Dallas, but it fits this song perfectly. And I don't know that if he would have done any of his heavier stuff that it would have worked the same.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought if it resembled Dallas or not. I think why I caught onto it is at the time I'm listening to Fall Out Boy, I'm listening to Thursday thrice, and like Take Back Sunday in particular was known for their vocal swap, their overlaying vocals, right? Just super catchy. Yeah. And Underoath was doing the same thing. Yeah, Aaron's vocals are super like, I don't know, they're super easy on the ears. They're really easy to listen to. They're pretty crystal clear. And Spencer's vocals weren't so harsh where you're like, it was very like easy to listen to even though he was screaming. But it's the same thing. Like you could understand what they were saying, and it was a lot of back and forth.
They're both pretty unique vocal styles.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, at least for the time, for sure.
This entire record to me, was vocal driven. It's not guitar driven yet. Like the drums are pretty cool, like, but that's like what it's known for. Like if you were to say, what's your favorite part on like this Underoath record, and if it's not Drowning in My Sleep, then you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like that was the coolest thing to do live, the coolest part to listen to on the record. It was just very vocal driven.
That's incredible. No, I was just gonna agree with you. That line, the cutting out to then the entire audience, anytime this is played live, all chanting, "I'm drowning in my sleep." It get like I literally just
Chills,
got
dude.
goosebumps just
Yeah.
like thinking about it. So
And then it goes right into like the breakdown, and they're still chanting it. And
Yep.
dude, this whole album just feels so tight.
Yep.
You know, like everything just feels so tight and like perfectly entwined with each other. Because I think that this is what 2004. Like the Blood's pretty popular, Poison the Well, From Autumn to Ashes. Like you're getting a lot more kind of like Norma Jean, right? Is starting out. You're getting like He Is Legend was around this time too, right? You're getting a lot more chaotic-y sounds, and not. I don't think people had really gone into like more of a melodic sound with like post-hardcore and stuff. And this album just felt so tight and like really flowed. And I don't know, like it's just, we kind of talk about like you can kind of just like bop your head to it, and it just fits so well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's true. The songs do feel pretty simple in how they're constructed versus some of the other stuff that they've done. And so it probably is just a lot easier to listen to.
That's a good way to put it, dude. It is a lot. This album, and it's funny because my wife does not like heavy music at all, but I put this on during dinner and like she listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's an easy listen, even though like it is heavy and he does scream, but it's so much more melodic and so like fitting for the music that it's an easier listen. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, and like as far as live at this point too, Tim was always way fun to watch live.
Yeah.
Doing the
Yeah.
craziest stuff. Chris was the same, like basically like they're trying to die on stage 90% of the time, running into each other and stuff. And it's almost like they had a pretty cool bond. But
Yeah.
at that time, they kind of just had it all. It's like, we got a drummer that can sing. We've got like pretty solid vocals and like a solid lineup, and the songs are all solid. And then I did read that it was 2 weeks after they released this record, or 2 weeks after they got done recording, they started writing to Find the Great Line.
Oh, really?
It's like 2 weeks after.
See, that's interesting because of how different To Find the Great Line is. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying, where a lot of this stuff was probably pretty close to being done, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if 2 weeks later, all of a sudden they're writing In Regards to Myself, that song alone, you're just like, what happened here? So going on to Find the Great Line at this point, this is a top 3 album for me.
Yeah.
Like
ever.
This
like
ever.
in completion of music, I 100% agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
To Find the Great Line is like the golden standard of metalcore, in my opinion. I love this album. It is absolutely incredible. I remember going to this concert when this album came out and then flicking on the reel.
Oh yeah,
and
dude.
just hearing that immediately start with all the lights down and just everyone just going, what? It's happening again, man. I got the goosebumps on the back of my head right now.
They like, I've talked crap on people like Ed Sheeran and that type of stuff, how it's more of like a theatrical performance instead of like a concert. They kind of flirted with that line a little bit because they were very theatrical. Do you remember how they had like the screen, like the drop back screen, and they would play like videos behind and stuff, and they would cut to like interlude music with videos? And I don't know, man. It was, I mean, at this time during this album, right, we were like big into moshing, like we were in the crowds, we were doing crap, we were getting rowdy. But when they played, especially during this era, all I could do was just sit back and be like, and like my mouth was just like jaw dropped, watching them.
So it was absolutely incredible.
The first time I heard this record, in regards to myself, I wasn't ready for it. I remember we spent like all day downloading this thing on iTunes. At that time, it took like 24 hours to download like one song, and we listened to it, and I was totally expecting another They're Only Chasing Safety record. and that's not what it was. So it threw me off, and then the vocals threw me off, and I went,
Yeah.
what is this? You know? And then it took me a few times to listen to the record over and over again, and I was just like, wow, you know? This is like entering into the next era of Underoath for me, where now you went from being vocal driven to where you are guitar riff driven. I mean, the vocals are there and all that stuff, but everything, like when you talk about Define the Great Line, you're talking about the insane guitar riffs that came off of
Yeah.
that record that are just like mind blowing.
We kind of talked about this with Misery Signals and like their like weird time changes and like offbeat stuff, and like this album does a lot of that. The technicality of the guitars and drums and tempo changes and all this stuff, you're just like, it's like hard to keep up with, but it's again, it's so tight because other bands like Converge and stuff do that, but it almost feels like kind of messy and too chaotic. This is like organized chaos. I don't know how else to explain it, right? Like,
Oh, 100%.
it's crazy, but it's so tight. And like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like their guitars, like just in regards to myself, the first like minute of the song, it's just like whiplash of all the stuff that's going on, but it's just so incredible.
Well, the riff is in time, but if there's so many crazy things happen. But before, people would like write riffs, but they'd be like out of time,
Yeah.
so you can never follow it. But like you say, if you just bob your head the whole time, it's in time, and you're like, I don't understand how he just did that.
Yeah.
The other band that
there's
did
a lot
that,
going on.
the other band that would do that a lot is August Burns Red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much stuff going on, but same thing. You're like, well, they're in time. I don't know what they're doing, but they're in time.
Yeah, dude. No, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that record was recorded in 2 studios. So Adam D from Killswitch did, I think, the guitars and the bass, and then Adam Gold something Goldman did the drums.
Matt Goldman.
Yeah, Matt Goldman, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
That was
I gotcha.
That was for both Define the Great Line and I think Lost in the Sound of Separation. I just think Lost in the Sound of Separation was mixed and mastered by somebody else, I think.
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong on that one, but
yeah.
I don't even know, like, just thinking of like favorite song on this album. I don't know that I can. Like, I remember they released the single for Riding on the Walls with the weird music video where they're like in the weird, like, goth punk type setting.
Yeah.
And it's just,
that
song is so good. Yeah. I don't know, man. Every single song, even the like interludes and crap where they're speaking like Swedish or whatever.
So
still gives me chills like listening to it, you know?
So Riding on the Walls, and I can't remember the other song they recorded, but they recorded 2 songs, or they did 2 music videos, but I think they went to Sweden or Scotland to do the music videos for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they weren't done in the US. I know Riding on the Walls was done over there. There was another one.
And in regards to myself. Yep.
Yeah, they did, because if you watch the other one, they're like doing crazy stuff. They're like strapped up in these like bands and stuff, and they're being pulled through walls and like doing all this cool stuff. But yeah, can you imagine that? Like, you reach that like part in your career, like, we're just gonna fly you to was it Sweden?
It was Sweden. Yeah.
They were gonna fly you to Sweden and record a music video over there. Because Riding on the Walls was number 2 on the Billboard.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy.
Insane.
That's crazy.
Believe that this album charted number 2 in 2006. Like, first of all, metal in general in 2006 is not the biggest thing, right? And Underoath, yeah, their own Chasing Safety did good, but I would never have expected this album to jump as high as it did. And I mean, kudos to them, right? It's a credit to how absolutely incredible this is. Even like the most preppy girls in school were listening to Underoath
Yeah.
albums.
But no, I mean, they weren't listening to albums. They were listening to Writing on the Walls.
Sure. Sure.
But no, dude, like even listening to Whom It May Concern, the last song on there, where they're like chanting and stuff. I mean, that's a 7-minute song, and I've never gotten bored of it.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
could
not a
sit
bad
here,
song on this album.
I could gush over this album all
So-
day long.
I have like very like specific memories of listening to this album in my basement and playing World of Warcraft at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like a huge nostalgia hit, but I really don't know that there's been a band or there will be a band that we'll talk about that I have listened to more than this album.
I can probably agree with that. Yeah. Which, again, that is incredible to say. All three of us, it's like this album has had probably hundreds of hours of playtime.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. I remember in your basement when we first started goofing around and talking about making a band, and our buddy Charlie came down and he had learned the guitar riff in regards to myself.
Yeah.
And we thought it was the coolest thing. You know what I mean? So it was so sick.
I just don't know that there's ever been an album that is like full on, like, I don't know how to put it. Like it took me to another place listening to it. Like, I'm sure this is what people in the 70s, like listening to Zeppelin stoned in their basements or whatever felt like, you know? But like, we weren't stoned, but we were sitting in basements listening to this. And it was just, I don't know, like there's very few moments in my life where I've ever felt like it took me somewhere else, you know?
Yeah.
And I can't explain what it is on this album, but it's just like, there's nothing wrong with it. It is a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. You know, like I could listen to this album anytime, any place. Like, it doesn't matter. It is like one of the greatest albums ever written of all genres ever. So
yeah,
we're gonna end it there.
And I will fight anyone that disagrees. So,
well, again, we can continue to gush over it, but we'll jump over to Lost in the Sound of Separation. And again, I think that you said it in the text message. I think that this got a little bit overlooked. I think Define was such a groundbreaking, such a landmark album that when Lost came out, everyone was like, it's not Define. I'm just going back and listening to Define.
Mm-hmm.
But this album is fantastic. I actually really, really like this album. Breathing in a New Mentality, the way that intro comes in is insane. It is so good. And I think it was our buddy Spencer. I remember when this album came out, I was like, I was one of those people. It's not Define, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you need to listen to this. This is a very good album. And so I listened to this a lot whenever I was in his car, I felt like.
I really enjoy the song A Fault Line, A Fault of Mine. The ending of that song is awesome. And actually, it's weird that it's not like noted as like one of their best songs on here, but Desperate Times, Desperate Measures is so good.
Yeah.
The breakdown on that song is insane. It I want to rip my room in half right now, you know? But yeah, it's such a good record. I feel like it got overlooked for reasons of like they tried to do another Define the Great Line record, you know, and like it was just such a top tier masterpiece. It was never going to happen. But this album still, I don't know. I don't want to say it's just as good, but it's like very close to where like I could listen to this record front and back, and like, you know, I feel like when I look at the record, like I'm like, I don't really remember any songs off of that, but I listen to that record, I'm like, I remember every song off of this.
Yep.
I think I listened to this a lot more than I thought. I think when I listened to this record, I thought I was listening to Define, and I'm like interswapping all the songs.
Yeah. So I listened to it a lot too, but I was kind of the same thing of, well, it's not Define, the Great Line. Going back and listening to it, like, I like it, and I'm the same with you, Josh. I remember all the songs. I can still sing to all the choruses and stuff, remember the lyrics. But it just, I don't know. I don't feel like it was enough of a stretch for them or growth, you know? It wasn't a letdown. Like, it's really good. Like, I think if you don't have Define the Great Line, this album becomes what Define the Great Line was.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's probably a fair way to put it. Now, I will say that they are very good at easing people through their sound changes. So we talked about it with the changing of time to They're Only Chasing Safety. Define was a pretty big jump, right? But I feel like this album bridges Define and Disambiguation.
I'll see. I actually will disagree with that.
Really? Because I feel like it gets sonically, you get more openness. You get more of the synth and some stuff happening. Like when they go into pre-choruses and stuff, there's not a lot of heavy guitar work. And then they'll hit with a heavy guitar thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's very reminiscent of Disambiguation versus Define the Great Line.
See, well, this album, like, it's got heavier breakdowns, but overall it feels lighter to me. Because Disambiguation is like kind of a grimy album, dude. And I don't get that same feeling with this. This is too clean. It's too light.
So I feel like in Sound of Separation, they introduced more ambient noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Define, you kind of hear it a little bit, but like,
I guess it's more melodic then. There's more melodic stuff.
But I feel like with Disambog, the two big factors I think with that record, one, Aaron's gone. So one thing that's interesting about that record is you have no original members of the band in Disambiguation. None of them were members from the beginning.
Sure.
And we were talking about, in Define the Great Line, you'd hear Tim play like a gnarly riff, but it would be in time. Well, now you've strayed away from that. Now you've got the Norma Jean drummer, who was notorious for they're playing just wild timing.
Yeah.
Now you don't have that flow anymore, and you've got Spencer's vocals that have now expanded with Tim's added because Aaron's no longer in the band. So I think that's where my focus went, was like, well, let's see what Spencer can do.
So I would actually put Disambiguation, and I'm sure you're going to ask Trevor because you always do this. I would put this above Lost in the Sound of Separation. I'd put Disambiguation in front of Lost in the Sound of Separation because I think that Disambiguation is the right growth for Underoath. Like, that's the right path. I feel like Lost in the Sound of Separation was a lateral move for him. Like, it was a safe lateral move. But I feel like Disambiguation stretched them way more than Lost in the Sound of Separation did.
And I just don't think that you get to Disambiguation without Lost. I think that there had to be that album in between. I don't think they could go from Define to this album.
Yeah.
And like, I think that would have just been, I don't think that they were there mentally for it. You know
how much of that was on Aaron too, though, Like, I wonder how much, I don't know if you've read much, but I wonder how much of the sound change in Disambiguation was from the drummer. Like, not necessarily from the Norma Jean drummer influencing, but Aaron not influencing the sound.
Oh, 100%.
I would think that that's probably a big part because Aaron goes on to do the Almost, and it's a more rock album?
Rock album.
Yeah.
I like the Almost, though.
So. I do too. I think the Almost is good. But then in addition to everything going on with Underoath at the time, just after Disambiguation, you get Sleepwave from Spencer. And that's a more electronic,
industrial type
album too. So this was the trend that they were going. It seems to be they were following Spencer a little bit. Whether that's the truth or not, right? Like, who knows? But this album, it just gets heavier. There's a heavy feel to this album.
Yep.
But it's not the same, I'm going to mosh for it. This is I'm going to rock back and forth. Am I drug-ridden state I think that Spencer was going through. It seems
Probably.
like.
Well, and Spencer's vocals got heavier when it needed to get heavy, but then they also got a lot calmer when it needed to be calm.
I
Agreed.
actually love his cleans in this album.
Yeah.
They fit so well. I don't think Aaron's vocals would have fit this album
No.
at all.
No, that
I agree with
hey,
that.
I think Norma Jean's ex drummer was a perfect fit for that record.
Oh, 100%. A Divine Eradication, that song is incredible.
Yeah.
So insanely heavy. And I think that is like a very direct influence from the Norma Jean guy, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%.
Just listening to like the chorus in Catch Myself, Catching Myself. Like I love like the last, it's like starting in like 2.5 minutes or so, like when Spencer starts singing that part. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just so like heady, ambient-y type singing with the heavy undertones of the music. And it's just so good. Like I really like this album. And going back and listening to it, dude, if we're gonna rank these albums, I told you guys I had a hot take that you're gonna fight me over. I would put this probably tied with They're Only Chasing Safety. That's how much I liked listening to this.
I quit.
Dude, it is so good. This is their most underrated album. 100%.
You can make that argument. I don't know if you can make your first argument.
See, I feel like this one got overlooked because as soon as they announced that Aaron had left the band, it was like, okay, well, the band's done. But now they're playing for a different crowd, you know?
Yeah.
So they say I feel like as much as like people can have their opinions about Aaron, but like he brought a lot of that show too live.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember going and seeing them when Sound came out, and it was almost the same thing, right? I remember it being dark, and all of a sudden the lights shot up, and he was up there, and he's doing the initial drum beat to what's that first song off of Sound? Breathing in a New Mentality, and he was just going wild.
Yep.
And dude, it sets the stage. Like he's an incredible drummer. So it was just way fun. It was a great time. They go on hiatus then from 2010 to 2017? 13?
I think it was 2013 they decided to disband. Because then they did They're Only Chasing Safety and Define the Great Line tour, I think in 2016.
Okay. Because that would have been 10 years of Define.
Yes. So they did. Man, that was a great tour to see. It's a bummer you guys didn't get to see it, but they played They're Only Chasing Safety front to back, and then went right in and played Define the Great Line front to back.
Crazy.
I made it through 3 songs to Define the Great Line, and I got kicked out. But I read an article shortly after that because there was rumors that they were getting ready to start playing new music, and I think it was after that tour that Spencer and Aaron had gotten together and started writing, like demoing out new stuff, and then kind of presented it to the band. The rest of the band was like down to do it. So that would have been around 2016, 2017, probably when they start announcing stuff.
Yeah.
And then Erase Me drops in 2018. I remember when this album came out, and I had actually just started a new job, and one of the guys I was working with was really, really into this album. And I had to sit there and fight with him and tell him that he needed to go listen to Old Underoath. Because this album, it just did not do it for me.
No.
Like,
I couldn't get through it, to be honest with you.
Like, why though? What is it about this album that's just... It feels like almost like a lower 9 Inch Nails mixed with like rock and stuff. So it gets very industrial.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is it felt like a Nin album. 100%.
Yeah, you don't get the heavy vocals from Spencer really. There's a little bit, but
I honestly believe you went 3 albums of being guitar driven and heavy riffs. Now the last 2 records, there's no heavy riffs on them. None. So
Okay.
the guitar's gone. Now it's very ambient and digitally driven.
Mm-hmm.
And the vocals
That's-
just don't hit like They're Only Chasing Safety did. That's what I got out of it. I think if they would have released this is like if they wouldn't have released those 3 records, this is probably what the birth of They're Only Chasing Safety would have gone to. Erase Me and Voyeurism.
You know what? That's a very good point, especially the guitar riff aspect of it, and probably the thing that's what I'm missing, because as much as you said like They're Only Chasing Safety was very like vocally driven, I know the guitar lines to all those songs.
Yeah.
Like you could take the vocals off and I could tell you that like if you just had the guitar playing, I'm like, oh, that's Underoath. You know what I mean? You don't get that in this album.
Mm-mm.
So that's a huge point.
It's feel like it's like kind of soulless music, right? Like the thing about They're Only Chasing Safety is like, yeah, it's vocally driven, but it's still very unique. The guitar parts are still very unique. Like maybe it's not as technical as the other stuff.
Oh no.
But this album's not technical and it's not like musically driven.
Right.
And I know we joked about this and we all listen to bands that say the F word and we don't care. But one of the songs, I can't remember which one it is on here, where they like make it a point to yell the F word. It's like, no one cares, dude. Like you could have just said the F word normal. None of us would have cared, but it felt like a teenager saying it for the first time.
See,
I
that's,
think it was
awkward.
in On My Teeth.
Was
I
it?
think is that I think that's the one that has it.
but there's a couple bands that do that. And I feel like the other 2 bands did it way worse than these guys.
Like who?
Day to Remember.
Okay.
And then
But they always said it though.
but
They
they
always
have
have language in their music.
but they have like one where it's like in the chorus every like 5 seconds where I'm like,
Oh yeah. All
Yeah.
signs point to,
all signs point to Lauderdale.
that's the one. Yep. I
And
know what
then
you're talking about.
and then For Your Strong's new single. Same kind of
Yeah.
deal. Where it's kind of dorky, but whatever.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Like when they say it in this album, in On My Teeth, it's dorky.
Yeah.
Like I don't care that you say the F word. Like I know that I've never said the F word, but like I know you guys have, and like, but this just felt super dorky. Like like no one cares that you say the F word, dude. Just say the F word. Don't be a dork about it. You know?
Go for the gold.
See, and I actually think Voyeurist does it worse than Erase Me did it. Like the song Hallelujah. Oh my gosh, dude. Like it's hard to listen to that song.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like, but the thing is, as much as I say that, Voyeurist was better than Erase Me.
I think so too.
Like, he comes back, he has his heavy screams in there again. This album got heavier. It actually feels like there's a little bit more emotion behind it. Like, Erase Me just felt, like you said, it felt soulless. Voyeurist actually feels like there's some emotion, some tying to it, and a few things like that, which I can respect. I still don't really like it. It's not something I'm listening often, but
I also I think there's a clean version of this album, Voyeurist. I'm a super anti-clean albums. Because again, if you're gonna swear, just freaking own it, man. Just swear. No one cares. You don't need clean albums. That's like proof of how dorky it is what you're doing. That you put a clean album out there.
how do you do that? Especially like this album, the last breakdown, the last time they go through it, and he's screaming, "This is effing hell!" Right? Like, how do
I don't
you
know.
clean that up? Do you
that
change
in
it just to
Hallelujah?
freaking? Yeah,
Let me listen to it.
at like
There's-
2 minutes and 30 seconds in.
There's lots of bands that do that though. Like make like their regular album then a clean one.
I'm against that. Own it, man.
Sometimes
Own
it's
it.
for like radio plays. Sometimes it's for where you can sell your album and not.
Yeah, that's true. I don't
Own
know.
it though.
But let's put it this way: if like if like your son was like, man, I really want this Underoath record, like it has parental advisory, you can't have it. But if there was a clean version, be like, I'll buy that one for you. I think it's
No, dude, my
stupid,
kid
but
is not gonna listen to Erase Me or Voyeurist. He's gonna have Define the Great Line on repeat for the rest of his life. Like that's what I'm saying is like this is the whole point we're making about these last two albums is it's like sellout soulless music, you know? Like why come back if you're just gonna play generic crap? Like no one cares. Don't tarnish your legacy. Don't be Michael Jordan and go play for the Washington Wizards. Just retire. You know what I mean? Like let it go.
he retired like
They
five
didn't have to
times.
do this. It
I don't
kills
know.
me.
I I really enjoy voyeurism, and I didn't mind erase me either.
Yeah, I don't
You're the
Erase
most
Me.
confusing person on the planet when it comes to music, dude. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, I thought that song "Thorn" is like awesome. To me, that is an awesome written song. "We're All Gonna Die" is awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just not what I'm
Choruses were
into.
great. I thought it was very good, but it's just like a
Thorn
slower.
sounds like a Sailsin song with Cove.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That's kind of what came to my mind. I'm like, not bad.
Yeah, but I'd rather listen to Sailsin,
Yeah, with Anthony Green.
not with Cove.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, I think the Voyeurist was better than Erase Me. Even like the song Numb towards the end of that album, like it's a good song. I'm not going to see Underoath to see anything new. If they're not coming on a 20-year show, I'm probably not seeing them. Like that's just kind of where I stand with them at this point because I don't want to go stand through an entire show of Voyeurist and
Yeah.
Erase Me, which maybe it's Boomer, right?
Total boomer.
Like that.
That's not Boomer at all. Especially because like we've talked about bands like AFI. Like even though AFI changed their sound a lot, I never felt like they were making soulless music. But this doesn't do it. This isn't it. Voyeurist and Erase Me, like erase the albums is what they should have called it, you know?
I really liked their single Lifeline.
You know what? Their last two singles were not bad. I
I
like
think
their singles probably more than I've liked the last two albums.
I think Lifeline is the best newest song they have written. That is top tier for me.
Yeah,
It's
I thought it
it's
was
all right.
good.
You
I mean, I'm not.
kind of get the easy guitar riff back in. That's not very digital. But like you were saying, like the Spencer's vocals sound a little different than they used to. I think when we were talking about these singles
Yeah,
a while ago.
he doesn't really get aggressive with it, right?
Mm-mm.
It's just kind of a yell.
This dude's been screaming for like what, almost 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Like it's probably fried, man. Like
Until
sing.
you've blown it out, you got to keep going.
That's what she said.
Don't you ever remember when they were touring in like 2005, 2006, and his vocals did not sound anything like the record because his vocals were just so blown out.
You know what? I vaguely remember that now, but at the same time, I don't think I cared at all
Yeah,
just because
right.
of how good the music is, just in general. But if you go to a more digital sound, it's going to be much more important to have a good sounding vocal. It's all processed now, so
Yeah.
who knows? Anyways, so that's Under Oath. I mean, should we do it? I mean, number one's Define, right?
Yeah.
Kyle's gonna say that Disambiguation is number two.
It's tied for 2. I don't think I can put it above. They're only chasing safety just out of principle, but it's at least tied with it. Or maybe like 2 point. Disambiguation might be 2.1 then. All right.
All right. Where do you go, Josh?
I don't know. I feel like because there's like 4 different versions of this band, you got the 2 albums, and you got the next 2, and then you got the next 3, and then you got the last 2. I feel like They're Only Chasing Safety was one of the most top tier albums of that time in music that came out. It would beat any other band at that time that I was listening to. But I think as far as Underoath as a band, I would say Define the Great Line, and then Lost in the Sound of Separation. I think both of those albums are
Okay.
just those are two
Yeah.
I could put on repeat all the time. I like They're Only Chasing Safety, but like where I'm at now, like musically, like kind of where my brain works, like They're Only Chasing Safety does get boring to me because it's not like there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah, they're simple songs,
Yeah,
right?
I can listen to it, but I can listen to the record once and then I've got to like move on. I could listen to Find a Great Line over and over.
I put that album though very similar to how I listen to pop punk, right? I'm listening to it because it's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Why I don't have to pay attention to the guitar riffs. I don't have to do that. I'm there for the sing-alongs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for singing I'm drowning in my sleep.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what it's for. So I'll go ahead and say the correct order of everything. And say that it goes to Find and then They're Only Chasing Safety. And then yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I put 3. I'm probably going Lost and then Disambiguation, but I don't know. Those I'll toss up between those two for 3 for me. So
It's funny that like the changing of times isn't even there. I don't know. We're gonna get blasted for this, I'm sure, but whatever.
I guarantee it. Honestly, like Changing of Time is like number 6 for me. Like
Which is crazy because they're most streamed songs. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm wrong. Never mind. Ignore that. We'll edit that out.
Like the album's good, but if you were to compare that album to the era that it came out in, there were just better bands that were doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed. So well,
Cries of the
dope.
past could burn.
That's blasphemy.
Cries of the Past is how I feel when I listen to Cries of the Past.
yeah.
I cry. And Active Depression is how I feel when I listen to Active Depression.
You cry and then you feel depressed.
Exactly.
So.
Then I get all discombobulated with disambiguation.
I guarantee you, I've said that name like 3 different ways tonight, and I guarantee I've said it wrong every time. So, anyways, yeah, just call it.
Anyways, go listen to Define the Great Line.
Agreed.
And you'll be happy. Life is better with that album.
Agreed. So, I think we're going back to locals next week. So we'll figure that out. And then after that, it's back to Kyle.
Or is it Josh?
Josh? No,
because I did
on Broken Wings.
And I did Maylene.
Oh, that's right. It is back to Josh.
It was true. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Think about it.
Only 3 of us. You got a minute.
Donny Osmond.
Donny Osmond. Let's go to Vegas and do it.
We'll do it live. All right. Catch you later.
Bye.
Oh.